Andrea, Kim requested that you go ahead and start.
Well, Mike, I'm not sure whether, can we approve all of the minutes at once, or do we have to go through every one of them?
No,
I think you could take it as a group, right? And then if anyone has an objection, we'll pull that one out and take it.
Okay, all right, so.
So maybe somebody could make a motion to accept all the,
Did we call the meeting to order?
no, not yet.
I thought we did.
6:06, it's on.
Right, I thought we did. Okay. So I'm starting with the first thing on the agenda, which is to call the meeting to order, and I thought we did, but here we go again. And the second thing is, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of, let's see, March 9th? These are all COW, March 31st, 13th, and April 20th.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so Dr. G, I guess you're on for reopening of schools.
Sure. The first thing I wanted to share with you is
to call the motion, Andrea.
oh yeah, right.
We have to vote on it.
Oh,
We didn't vote.
no. Thank you, Rita. One of these days I'm going to get the hang of this. Okay. In favor? No, is there any, no, first the in favor, then the discussion comes after that. Help me out here.
No,
Hi, Susan.
I think you should just ask if there's any discussion.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstaining?
I'm abstaining because I missed them.
Okay, one abstention, and that's Rosemary. And the motion passes. Thank you, Rita. I don't know what I'd do without you.
No.
And Kim just joined in.
Now,
Kim's in.
there's it. Thank you, Jesus.
Kim, can I leave the meeting and come back in? Because no one has ever really said thank you, Jesus, when they saw my face. Just saying. All
So,
right,
You want? I'll start if you want, Kim.
where are we?
We've passed the minutes as a group.
Number 3.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah. So, two things. Then I'm going to let Susan weigh in. There was a governor's roundtable on reopening education today that I found extremely helpful. And I'm just going to share some notes. Dr. Carter, the state epidemiologist, he started off with the whole notion that we, and boy, this was a theme throughout, that we just have to be flexible as we think about, certainly as we think about the fall. The head of the CEA, Beth and Doug, Don Williams, was the first one actually to speak after Dr. Carter. And he was just saying, from the teacher's perspective, in the fall, we need to have testing in place, social distancing, masks, class sizes. You know, it's slowly starting to dawn on people that if we open, unless something miraculous happens, we probably are going to open with limited number of students in the classes. And I know there have been some reports about, for example, a third of the kids coming in every third day. And anyway, the CEA gave some thoughtful suggestions along those lines. And basically, one of the college professors was saying that we really have to be prepared for kind of like a hybrid, perhaps part in person and part distance learning. Fran Rabinowitz, the head of CAPS, she kind of weighed in about making sure that all children get the kind of services they need, including the disabled. We had a good discussion about summer camps. We're going ahead. I'm going to give you a big proposal tomorrow, Kim, to fully start the Treehouse program for 8-week child care program this summer. And however, we're gonna have to get a waiver. You're only allowed to have 30 kids per program, per child care program. But if you have a big enough facility like a school, I'm confident we can get the waiver. Commissioner Cardona, he just cautioned everyone, you know, we need to do this right so we don't have to do it again. One of the former president of Yale was speaking, and he came up with an interesting suggestion that colleges might start in September and go to Thanksgiving and not have the kids go back to campus, finish off the semester online, which I think is a kind of a tip towards there may be some additional problems come November. Just looking at my notes here, we're gonna have to accommodate the people with pre-existing conditions, the children with pre-existing conditions. So, you know, keep coming back to that word flexible, and we are going to have to really embrace that, because I'm not entirely sure. But the other thing that I sent you was something that the Connecticut Center for School Change shared with me, and Susan and I have talked about a good bit, and it's called a Return to School Roadmap, and it has some really interesting. Basically, it's a seven-part kind of process that looks at governance, instruction, technology, facilities, post-secondary planning, wellness, and operations. And when I spoke to this Connecticut Center for School Change today, Isabel Stevenson, who helped us with a little bit of the strategic planning, she told me about a program. They're having a series of workshops on each of those things, and that because of our contract with Isabel, essentially it's already paid for, so that the district would be able to participate in this Return to School Roadmap workshop with coaching and materials. And I shared that with Susan, and we're basically thinking that something like the governance aspect of returning to school would be the board and myself and perhaps some others. We're going to roll that out, and then the instruction and technology would fall under Susan and a committee, and we're hoping that some board members would be interested in serving on that. I know Doug and Beth are interested. I see Andrea nodding her head, and I'm assuming that some of the folks from curriculum and committee would be interested in that. And then there's a facilities. You know, how do we over the 10 weeks? There are about 10 weeks from the 12th of June until the 27th of August. During that 10-week period, how do we get ready so that we have people that feel comfortable coming into our schools? Then there's a post-secondary that I'm going to ask Erin McGuire to head up, a kind of a guidance issue. There's a wellness component that we want to, both physical wellness and mental health, that we want to have a committee with nurses, and I think Susan will probably also lend a hand there. And then we're going to have an operations committee, which has everything from finance to HR, enrollment, and so forth. And so I'm going to get all this out to you in detail.
I think I already sent it, Mike.
Yeah. But if
I
you
sent it to all the board members.
Oh, good.
There was a link to the roadmap, and then there was an attachment. Give me a thumbs up if you received it.
I'm looking at it right now.
Right.
I think do you get the packet, by the way?
I did get a packet, yes.
It should have been, you know what, darn, I put it in board notes. Did you get board notes this week?
No, I didn't. I still haven't gotten, I don't well enough to my computer, so I still don't have a functioning email.
Oh, okay.
We can certainly get Rosemary a computer.
Yeah.
I want to buy my own, and then somebody has to show me how to work.
Yeah, we could.
We
could
have
do
those
that.
people too.
Yeah, yeah. So my point is, if you take a look at it, board members, I'd appreciate it if you could sort of weigh in and talk about which committee you'd like to be on. Perhaps in the short run, including Zay and Addie. It'd really be great to have students because, you know, I think I mentioned, I don't know who I mentioned it to, but my thoughts are, in the fall, we've got three options. There's going to be a miracle and everybody's going to go back to school and in person. There's going to be a semi-miracle and we'll all be able to go back at least for a period of time. And then there's the sort of the lurking reality that I think is upon us, that we're going to go back in hybrid mode, meaning some in-person, perhaps a certain number of kids in a building at a time, a certain number of kids on a bus at a time. This is going to take some serious planning. And then as virtually every speaker at the roundtable said today, you just have to be flexible. You know, we could have Plan B all ready to roll, and on the 25th of August realize that there's a continued outbreak or a new outbreak, and we're going to have to switch. So I think flexibility is going to be the key. But
Mike,
yeah,
I think Rita had a question, or were you just waiting? Sure. Okay, she was just waiting.
So do you want to weigh in a little bit, Susan?
I just wanted to let you know that I did receive from Susan when she asked. I wasn't really waiting.
Oh, right. I'm glad you got it.
Yes.
No, I think you pretty much fully explained it. I think that when you think of a task force to do a comprehensive roadmap, it's one of those things that it's such a big job that to break it up into these buckets the way they have is so essential. And then to come back to the table, you know, with the different parts of the plan and just to make sure it makes sense. And if you looked, even the parts that I kind of cut and pasted to the addition, you know, I loved the fact that in this roadmap, they said, what is it that we can do now? What is it that we must do before we go back? And what is it that we essentially have to do once we're in the building? So for every single one of those components, and really, I had said to Mike, really the governance part is the Board of Ed, and maybe he and I working with the Board of Ed to see your roles and responsibilities and how you can support us in this. And then each of those buckets, I can see some of our separate subcommittees working on, or people who are interested, so that we have some representation. And honestly, I would love to have Addie and Zay, because instruction and technology and their experience with it, and you know how we can even do it better, I think would be awesome. And to have Beth and Doug and other teachers and administrators. We don't want a huge group because we do have to Zoom. So, but it would be good to have representation from throughout the district. So one of the things that I would say that really when I was watching the Commissioner of Ed, I kind of quoted what he said. He said, we're really a collective call to action in our different communities. And we have to almost reimagine, we've had to reimagine education the way it was and the way it is now. And it's certainly not the way where we want it to be. But we can look at what has worked and what hasn't worked and how can we make this better for kids. And it goes back to what Doug had said, how do we build a stronger one of these distance learning programs into the future where this might have to be the new norm, where these things happen every now and again. So, he did talk about equity and access, and even in meeting with the assistant superintendents in Learn, I felt really very validated that, there were a lot of districts that are out there, very affluent districts, that did not give out computers, did not give out hotspots, fend for yourself. And I felt like we had that was on our mind, equity and access, that all of our kids, it took us a little longer than we had hoped, but that all of our kids could be able to participate. And I think that's what I was hearing too from the commissioner, that that's what's ever so important. And even our kids with some biggest challenges and special needs, how are we making sure that they have equal access? You know, so I think though, Mike, I think it's a good plan. I think it's a good roadmap, and I'm looking forward to working with people on it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions about that before we move on?
Kim,
Yes.
just a quick question. To whom should I send what I would like to do? I want to be involved in. Send it to you, Kim?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, our next thing on the agenda is, this has come out of the curriculum committee, which is what our path is. And I don't know if Andrea or Susan, if you want to start that off, that would be great.
Andrea, you got to unmute. Unmute. There you are.
I did. I realized that. Anyway, we met with, via Zoom with Carmita, and, well, our questions weren't really answered because the state doesn't have the answers. So we're ready to go, to move ahead with what we have. And is Carmita here tonight?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay.
It's waving at you.
There you are. So why don't we turn it over to Carmita, and because she's the expert.
Right.
Oh,
And
goodness gracious.
so could we just make sure that we're really clear that I'm really glad that we're having this discussion. It just really breaks my heart that we have to have a state law that to have enriched literature that represents all of us. But we do, unfortunately, and maybe someday in our lifetime we don't. But so this is really to meet, to want to fill in a gap that we have, but also it is also to meet the state regulation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And once again, it just breaks my heart that that's what we have to do. But because I think it should just be part of an enriched literature, and it's not. So, Kamita, please take it on.
Okay, Mr. Russell, can I share my screen?
I think you should be able to.
Okay.
That's not Mr. Russell. That's Rosemary Robinson.
Okay. Ms. Rosemary
That's
Roberts.
Rosemary.
Yes. Okay.
You're my name, name.
Okay. So this is the presentation that I shared with the curriculum committee with a few updates. But as Dr. Ackerman has said, a whole lot of information or questions are still unanswered. So just to give a little bit of background, I've been constantly communicating with Stephen Armstrong, our social studies curriculum consultant, and I'm hesitating because I'm wondering why it's so low.
It's running slow like me.
Okay, okay,
I did see it go up.
okay. So maybe I should stop it and try it again?
I was gonna say, yeah.
Okay.
There it is.
Well, we did get copies of it.
Of the power, do you have the PowerPoint?
Not the
Yeah. Could you just put it up one time and don't do anything else?
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, here we go. Oh, goodness.
Pops right off.
Yep.
Carmita,
Okay.
would you
Uh-huh.
send that, to keep talking, but send it to me? Can you do that? You have the ability?
There it is.
There it is. Can you see the whole slide though?
Yeah, we can see the whole slide, number 2.
Okay. All right. So I've been in constant communication with Mr. Armstrong, and he doesn't seem to know a whole a wealth of information either about this. So he seems to just know as much as we know. He's looking for questions, and so I sent him questions. A meeting was scheduled with CERC as soon as I got off the meeting, the Zoom meeting with the Board of Curriculum last week or the week before. I sent him those questions that we had, and then his meeting was canceled. But this is what we know so far. We know that CERC has taken charge of this initiative, and the committees that have been developed are also meeting on Zoom. I know a few people on those committees, and they're just in the discussion stages. They're not even close to near writing any curriculum. A couple of weeks ago, I joined one of the focus groups where I thought it would be a discussion about the new course, and it just was a fact-finding information. They asked questions, we shared our answers, and they went to the next question. So we do know that the CERC is developing the curriculum. Fitch High School or the Groton Public School System does not have to implement the course officially until the 2022 school year. We have the option to start it or implement it in our schools during the 2021 school year, but it won't be mandated until the 2022 school year. During that time, beginning July 2022 through July 2024, the State Department will be auditing each school to assure that each high school has implemented the program. The course is being developed for all high school level, 9th through 12th grade. Again, I'm just skipping all over the place. But another expectation of the school district is that we have to teach this CERC issued course. We can't modify it in any way. One of the questions that a board member asked the last time I met is, can we separate the two? Can we just teach one African American history one semester and then teach Latino and Puerto Rican studies another semester? That question hasn't been answered because the curriculum has not been developed, so we don't know what it's going to look like. This is some new information that we discovered in my conversation with Mr. Armstrong, that this course can be taught by a social study or a language arts teacher, and it can be given credit as a humanities course. And so my question to Mr. Strong is, in the legislation, it specifically speaks to a social studies teacher teaching it. And so he has to go back to CERC and the State Department to get an answer or an explanation for that, because that was changed, and it was not changed in the legislation. I talked about CERC, and I talked about the focus groups that I attended. And then these are the most recent questions that the Board of Ed asked. The Board of Ed asked where there'll be funds made available to the districts. And these are Mr. Armstrong's educated guess, because again, his meeting with CERC was canceled. He was supposed to meet with them last week, and the meeting was canceled. So his educated guess is that CERC has no money provided for the resources. That means the district will have to foot the bill, for lack of a better word. And then to the second question that Board of Ed members asked is, once the curriculum has been developed, will there be regional schools? Will regional schools be able to get together to talk about the curriculum? And he says yes, professional development will be provided for the curriculum, and they are talking about doing it on a regional level. And again, as Mr. Armstrong learns information, he promised that he would share and keep me up to date. And I'm going to keep him to that, because I'm going to keep emailing him and contacting him as an update.
Well done, Carmita. Keep it feet to the fire.
And that's it. Any questions?
Hi, Carmita.
Hi.
When I look at the bills in section 4, I believe on the last page, they call it one course. It's fairly clear in a few different places here. It says The Regional Board of Education may offer the Black and Latino Studies course. It is not plural pursuant to section in grades 9 through 12. So that meant it could be one course and taken over a 4-year period?
No, it's just 1 year. It's a 1-year course, one elective.
One elective, but what I'm saying is that you could take it 9th grade, 10th grade.
Yes, yep.
Students have a choice.
Exactly, they sure do. They sure do. And it can be, according to, although it's not in the legislation, according to Mr. Armstrong, it can be counted as a humanities course. So either social studies or English, yes. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Perfect. It'd be a perfect NYP course.
Right.
Interdisciplinary NYP.
Right, and an IB course.
Right.
Although Dr. Grenier, we do teach civil rights movement and Black studies, or topics and themes in IB.
Yeah.
Yep. Any other questions?
Carmita?
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I understand the focus on Black and Latino studies. However, that's not always our population. And, you know, we have a large Asian population and Middle Eastern population. And I just wonder if, you know, those are things that might be coming down the pipeline as well as elective courses, because I want to make sure that this is an elective. It's not required for all kids to take. It's an elective, right?
That's right.
Correct. Okay. But you know, this is, go ahead.
I believe it's an elective, but
it is an elective.
Every student has to take it.
No.
This
it is not now.
Every school has
it's only mandated.
Oh, you just have to offer it.
Yeah, it's only mandated that we offer it.
Right.
Correct.
Oh.
Correct. And again, this was a mandated course that was developed by some of our teams in the area. And I think Zay was part of one of the organizations that was really involved in developing this course. And some of our MLK students are part of it. And they're helping developing the curriculum as well.
Way to go, Zay. Way to go.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. And this has to do with what the electives may be. I would love to see that some of the American authors, both Hispanic, Puerto Rican, and Black, would be part of it. The literature would be part of it.
You know,
not just history.
Right.
But also language arts.
We do have an African American lit course. That's an elective at our high school level. So, but you're right that we should include all groups in that. But we do have, and it's a popular class that students enroll in, is African American lit class. But you're absolutely right, and we've been trying to develop courses to meet the needs of our entire population and just not a few. But I will bring that to our department, our social studies department, because we do at some point throughout the year have the ability to propose courses to our administrators.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Dr. Grenier?
Well, I was just going to say, as you were saying, it's unfortunate that it came down from the state, but I would love, in response to what Liz said, I would love to see us have some ethnic studies electives. And the other one that's obvious to me with where we are is Native American studies.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
You know, I've always thought in New England it would make it certainly as close as we are to the two tribal nations. It makes a lot of sense to have Native studies.
Right. We, Dr. Grenier, as a matter of fact, before school closed, our department got together and we developed a list of courses we would like to propose.
Great.
And Native American is one of the top ones.
Great.
Yeah. So we'll work to propose that or submit that information.
Wouldn't
or description.
Wouldn't it be great to include somehow music and art and make this a well-rounded
yes.
at school?
Oh, yes.
So another course that was developed on that list because one of our teachers, you probably know him, Peter Crump, is an expert in music history. And so he likes all those 60s and 70s and 80s music. So there is a course in the music department, a music history course, but we wanted to do more of a
Performance?
yeah, right, or thematic music, you know, what was going on during this period of time, what music was being played during this period of time.
So the social history through music.
Right.
That's
Awesome.
Anytime when we involve the arts, it makes it so much more dynamic.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Carmita, I do believe Montville High School might have a distance learning course on that, or they did at one point.
Okay.
So they might still have it. They did have it as a distance learning, and they did have a class that was American Studies that integrated the music, the art, the literature, all about American history. So, you know, I'm just throwing that out because I think that's a neat way to go to for an American history credit that's required for graduation.
And you said it was a distance learning program?
There's one there's one that was distance learning on music and the social history of music in the United States.
Okay.
And then the other one they had was an American Studies class, which was balanced with an English teacher and a social studies teacher. And so they they got 2 credits for it, but you signed up for both of those. And it was really quite interesting, very popular. It was very good. So just an idea.
All right, I'm jotting these down.
Gretchen?
I was thinking about the Native American Studies. That would fall more under an anthropology class than an English literature class or a literature class of any sort. Or I mean, there's so much involved there, and we have so much ability here to become actually involved in it. Where I think that might fall better under anthropology than literature or history.
Okay. Which falls under our department as well too. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Any further questions? So what's the next step?
So the next step, I am going to send another email to Mr. Armstrong to find out the update. You know what? He welcomes it. He says, if you can think of anything else, Carmita, email me. So I'm going to do that. But the organization that I was telling the curriculum committee before, I'm involved with this outside organization. They update me of what the CERT committees are doing. So that's how I find out some of my information as well. So,
and I think about the timeline, and I know that the next step would be able to bring to our curriculum committee the actual CERT curriculum once it's written, so that we can then get it voted on so that it goes officially into that 2022 school year.
Right.
Great. Jay?
I'm not hearing anything from Jay.
Jay?
So, my question is, so it doesn't have to be offered until 2022. Is there a possibility of offering it earlier, or is that too tight for the curriculum development?
So that's a good question, because CERT is to submit it to the State Department by January 2021. So if we plan to that might be very tight if we can offer it in the fall of 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, yeah, that would be a tight.
Yeah. That would not necessarily follow the board guidelines and other things. But Jay, I think you're right. It would be great to have that course offered sooner than later. It's. Mike?
I was going to say, because if the next step is we get this curriculum, it's a little like an ECE course where the UConn writes the curriculum. Right. So if the board votes at some future meeting to offer this class, it's not like we have to give Carmita 6 months to write the curriculum. The curriculum will be there. So if we had the information in January or the spring of 21, which is to say next spring, we could offer it in the fall of 21. In other words,
Having to order resources and
right.
whatever materials that we need.
It wouldn't take.
It would be past the program study, wouldn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's a yes or no from the board's perspective, then we're not going to change the curriculum, and it's a state law requirement that we offer it. I'm just saying, if the board wants to approve it, we could put a course in the program of studies leading into the fall of 21.
So Joan, could you put could I be so bold on board to request Joan to kind of put a tagline in so that we can vote on that course?
I got it. Yeah.
So that course could then move forward.
Yep. Joan and I will do it.
Thank you.
It's Polly.
It's Polly. We have a problem with Fox.
Yes, you do have a problem with fox, because when I was walking my dogs, there was a couple of foxes there, and they were trying to be friendly.
Oh.
I've seen, I just wrote about them.
Did you?
Oh, really?
Yeah, about fox, one fox.
Need to sit down? Yes, Gretchen.
If we're going to offer these classes, if we vote on offering them now and plan on ordering stuff now for a class for 2 years, until the state hands us the curriculum they want us to use, we can't order anything.
Oh, no. Yeah. We won't order anything because we would have 9 months to order it. But in order to get it into the program of studies, we have to move sometime before October.
That's right.
And with the other state curriculum, may I add, they don't actually recommend a textbook. Like I think about the algebra program, that there are a lot of teacher-made resources that go along with that. Our district actually has been using Newzilla, which is grown by leaps and bounds, and they have a section for social studies, and they're working in line with the state framework and with this Steve Armstrong to get the resources together. So that could be something that we already have, that we use, that could be used, and it has varying reading levels, so it's really something that can be highly differentiated to meet the needs of all kids, and it's got a check question and answer quizzes so that the teacher can check for understanding. So there could be resources that we already have that could suffice, and then I'm sure that the CERT curriculum will come with a plethora of lessons and resources, even digital resources. So while we might agree that we want some kind of a textbook, we're really kind of shying away from the textbook. We're doing more online text. We've talked about this, and things that we can, update and have regularly upgraded, like this Newzilla program.
Any more questions on this?
Do we have a rough idea of when that curriculum is going to be coming out?
January of 2021.
So that's when we'll find out what the actual curriculum content is?
That's right.
Okay.
Anything else? All right, hearing none, let's move on. So we're updating with Fitch High School, and I see that we have a couple of our friends. So I liked your little haircut.
Yes.
And you know what's really funny is the way that your earphones go down. It actually, one time it looked like you were chained, like you had a chain on. So I'm like, ooh, like Ed's getting like really big. He's wearing a chain. He's got a haircut.
We stop at the haircut, Kim. That's about as far as. But yeah, that's my daughter enjoys doing that. That's been the highlight for her. This whole thing.
That's a great video, guys. That was a nice job.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
So, Mike, do you have a sense that we should just let ahead and start speaking to
Yeah.
items on the pitch? Okay. So,
Yes. So let me see if my screen will share. So basically, two different items that I want to talk about today, and then I know we have a couple other things to go over. Was we've had some discussion about our athletic eligibility rules and our current bell schedule, our daily bell schedule. These were some items that were up for discussion before we ended up leaving school, and as we started moving from the day-to-day planning of distance learning. We're starting to get into the conversations about next school year as well. And so these things, we wanted to make sure we were moving forward with these. So I'll talk a little bit about the athletic eligibility first and then the bell schedule after that. So when I came to Fitch High School and having conversations with Mark about the athletic eligibility rules, I was concerned that we had an athletic eligibility rule that a student could conceivably go through 4 years, be athletically eligible every year, and only have 16 credits at the end of those 4 years. Because our athletic eligibility rule is currently the minimum CIAC rule, which is meeting the rules, but a student only needs to pass 4 classes in order to be considered athletically eligible. So I asked Mark to put together a committee to look at our athletic eligibility. This is the group of people that served on that committee. And I don't want to go too quick, but just going through, I gave them some kind of the purpose, the things that I was looking for them to do, review our current eligibility standard and look at possible changes, making recommendations to myself and the other administrators, making recommendations to all of you, which is what I'm doing right now, and then to educate the community on the new standards if we decide to adopt new standard. And then I told them that there was some directives that they need to operate within, that they need to look at the eligibility standards of our sister schools in the Eastern Connecticut Conference, get input from a number of people, making sure that we're still in compliance with the CIAC, which needs to happen. Make sure that we're researching the effect of these eligibility standards on our current students and teams. We have to make sure that it's easy to determine eligibility because we can't mess this up. If we make a mistake, it could cause teams to forfeit games. And then we have to talk about how are we going to support those students that are struggling in classes or are determined to be ineligible, and what we're going to be able to do to support them, how coaches are going to grade, monitor, and again, how we're going to make sure the public's aware of this if we decide to go forward. So what they came up with was that starting next year with the Q1 grade, so we would be under the old eligibility rules with the end of the school year this year. But starting with our Q1 grades and going into all of next year and the year after that, a student would need to pass 5 classes to be considered eligible to participate in athletics. And then at the end of that 2-year period, we certainly want to assess where we are, but the plan would be then we would increase it to students would need to pass 6 classes in order to participate in athletics. And then they have developed, and again, it's fairly long, but they have developed a clear plan on how grades are going to be monitored and how we're going to support students through past classes, study halls, and Falcon Academy. So we put this out to the faculty just the other day. I was really pleased to see that the faculty was very much in approval of this. So the faculty that answered back to the survey, it was almost 90% of the faculty were in agreement with this policy change. So I think it's something that, and it puts us more in line with all the other ECC schools. Currently, there's only 3 schools in ECC that still go with just the minimum standard for athletic eligibility. So that's pretty much it. So I'm happy to open it up to questions.
Gretchen, and then Rita.
What are we considering passing when I was in high school, a million years ago, a D- was not considered passing. You went DF.
Okay, yeah,
So they're presented, I swear to God, D-. So I don't know.
Yeah, so basically there's two different things that actually came up in the discussion, and I'll speak to the first one is the whole idea of a 65 passing rule. And that did come up with some of the discussion because there are some schools in the ECC that decided that have that rule. That rule would actually be separate from the academic eligibility rule, because the academic eligibility rule simply states you have to be passing 5 classes or passing 6 classes, as opposed to the grade scale, which if we decide that the passing 65, then the academic eligibility rule just decides that, okay, that 65 is what's considered passing. There was also a discussion about a behavioral standard within the academic eligibility rule. Again, I look at that as a separate conversation that we're going to have, and whether or not we want to talk about an activity restriction type of policy, where if you have X number of discipline infractions, that declares you ineligible for athletics or so on. So that would be I think that the grade scale and the idea of like an activity restriction rule would be the next step in the conversation. But I think the first step of the conversation was we have to look at the overall academic eligibility rule and decide what's more in line with our graduation requirements.
Rita?
Yeah, I think this is wonderful. I do remember when the board passed the policy, the C-, that if a student wasn't, as soon as they got to a C-, then before they could go and practice, they had to go to the cafeteria for a study hall and work and do their homework and so forth before they were allowed to go out and practice. I believe it was like 45 or 50 minutes. Is that still the case?
Yeah, so again, I didn't put in all the specifics about what they were talking about in terms of grade monitoring, but they did do a lot of recommendations in regard to how coaches would be aware of what their students, what their athletes were doing in terms of their grades. And then when a student was determined to be struggling, that student would be required to either be in a study hall, be enrolled in a task class, or be attending Falcon Academy, so that we were getting that support for that particular student. So I think what we're trying to do is prevent students, really identifying those students before they become ineligible and determining what supports we can get them so that they can continue to do well in their classes, most importantly, but then also participate in athletics. I think one of the things that, a lot of people think as soon as we start talking about these rules is that we want to prevent students from actually participating. That's not the case, at all. As a former coach and I really got into education first, as a teaching and coaching. I want all of our students to be participating in extracurricular activities at the school. It's just making sure that our standards really support our graduation standards, which this rule, I think, more accurately reflects the graduation standards. Like I said, if we only requiring passing 4 classes, that's only 16 credits over a 4-year period.
So my question is, are the coaches and the teachers following the board policy of having students not be allowed to practice until they go to the cafeteria for a study hall with a C- or less?
I can't say that has been as probably as stringent as it probably should be. I think that
so. It needs to be enforced because it is the board policy, and I think we have to hold everyone accountable to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, and I think that what they put in place will do that.
Great, thank you,
Liz.
Yeah, I have a question about equity. I've heard a lot of talk about, for athletes, but we also have a lot of extracurricular activities at the high school. Mm-hmm. And would this policy also, would it be extended to include music, theater, all the extracurriculars that require extra time? Marching band season, for example, those kids are gone a lot of time. I'm not trying to put a clamp on it, but I want our kids to be successful. And I just think it's important that we have an equitable policy, not just for sports, but for, you know, for the entire extracurricular activities.
And I think that goes back to the point I said about the difference between a academic eligibility standard, which is what we need to have in place for the CIAC rules, and that being kind of the starting block of this whole thing. And then the next step being looking at, you know, they had mentioned the grade scale, that is a part of the conversation, but then also the activity restriction. And that would be the, you know, whether or not we want to see if we can put something like that in place. So if the students participating in, let's say, the play, that they have an academic eligibility standard as well. But that would be, you know, because it doesn't fall under the CIAC, we have to have that regulation that we're either meeting their standard or going above and beyond it. But this is, we're asking to go above and beyond it, that would be the next step in the process.
I just would like to personally see that one of those things be that this is not just in compliance with the CIAC, but just something that we stand behind, is that we want our kids to be successful and not to the detriment of, you know, the extracurriculars, but as an enhancement.
So my sense is Liz, you're asking for a referral to go to policy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. To have an investigation around what is our standard that we hold for extracurricular activities in high school. I mean,
yes, that's what I'd like. Thank you, Kim, for reading my mind. It's one of your many talents.
All right.
Thank you, Ted.
That was good. And so you continue on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So the next piece was a little bit different. Was the can everybody see this? Okay. So the bell schedule, and you know, when I first came to the school at the beginning of the year, I'll admit that it took me a little time to kind of understand the bell schedule. We have a lot of them. And I think that one of the concerns I had right away was kind of a lack of consistency in our bell schedule. I really like to see some consistency, having similar schedules every day. It's not the schedule's this way on Monday and it's different on Tuesday, and then we have an early release day on Wednesday. We would have a 5-day week with 4 different bell schedules. And that became a little bit of an issue. You know, the other thing is we have the rotation of the periods, which we're not going to change, but at this point yet. But it's something where it could get very confusing at times, what we were doing in terms of our bell schedule. I also had a concern that we were losing a lot of instructional time due to our early release Tuesday schedules. Our students were leaving at 1 o'clock. Certainly that was important time for our teachers to collaborate, but that was a lot of a lost instructional time. And our students oftentimes were going home and maybe didn't have a lot of supervision at home as well. So, you know, I was looking to see if we could develop a bell schedule which would increase the amount of teacher collaboration times that we would have for our department meetings, SRBI discussions, and sharing data and instructional decisions. But allow us to still have that consistency and having the same bell schedule every day, and eliminating that instructional time, loss of instructional time on Tuesdays. So this is the bell schedule that we're proposing for next year. And the basic, I'll go through some of the points of it, but this would be the same bell schedule each and every day. And so we would not have our early release Tuesdays anymore. You can see that we would be reducing down to 3 lunch waves. We would have a 45-minute CTL every day, and all of our classes would be at 75 minutes. It also builds in a short homeroom period, which is not a separate class from the Block 1 class. I'll explain that in a bit. And a little time at the end of the day for afternoon announcements. So I'll bring this up in a second, but just I want to go over some of the points. The first thing is how CTL works. And basically, I'll use an example of some people that are with us. We might take Doug and Carmita and pair them together in one CTL. So their CTL will be a little bit larger, but they'll both be working with it together. And so on A days, you might have Carmita would go to her department meeting, and Doug would be covering the CTL. And on B days, they would flip-flop. So that basically Carmita would then have two 45-minute times to work with her department, and so that she would be meeting with her department more often during the week. And then on Fridays, when we have the advisory CTLs, they would be able to work together with their CTL for that advisory period. The 5-minute homeroom period, one of the concerns that we had there was that we need to start taking a attendance for the day, with the students there for the day, and also our classroom attendance. So we'll have daily and classroom attendance. So basically, that 5-minute period at the beginning of the day allows us to take that attendance, do all of our announcements at the beginning of the day without losing the class time for a first period class. Again, we're running 3 lunch waves a day instead of 4. We started this practice this year, and we're successful with it. We have 2 very small lunch waves when we run 4 lunch waves. And so, especially with having an extra security personnel next year, this is definitely doable, and we've already cleared this with Ernie. We are going to be having a little bit more structure to our CTL to make sure that our students are not causing any interruptions during that time, and using that time a little bit better with it, and using that time to do their work. And actually, this does actually increase our instructional time for the year. And not by a small amount, it's not a lot, but it does actually increase our instructional time. So I think that this will build a lot of consistency with our bell schedule throughout the year. The bell schedule will essentially be the same unless we have a district-wide early release day, or we have like a special schedule for maybe like a pep rally or something like that, which we would change the schedule internally. So, but this is the proposed bell schedule we have for the school. Is everybody okay? I can stop the share, or?
You can stop the share.
You can stop the share. So Rita, I really wanted to have seen your face when they talked about getting rid of the Tuesday early release. Like, yes. I really am, I'm sad that I had missed that.
I know. I mean, I was just so impressed with when Ted said they put that up. I've been, that is something that I've been advocating for about 8 years. The first 2 years I understood when we put it in place, because we were going through the evaluation for the first time, after, well, 10 years ago, and it was supposed to go away, and it never went away. So I'm just very pleased to see that student contact with teachers is going to be increased next year.
Liz?
Ted, just a quick question. There had been a policy in place when I was there about senior privileges, that they didn't have to come to school if they had an off block first period, or they could leave early last period. And that was one of the reasons why there was the CTL was where it was, and that's where the announcements were done, because that ensured that everybody would be in the school. So are you still maintaining the idea of still having seniors having the ability to come in later, or is that something that is going to go by the wayside, because to do announcements the first thing in the morning, if our seniors of like a third of the class isn't there, then they're not going to hear the important announcements?
Well, we're not planning on changing those senior privileges for those seniors that have earned them. And I certainly think that it's definitely a possibility for us to do announcements during the CTL. That's actually not a practice that we were doing this year.
Oh.
We're having them in the morning, because we do that. We do, and it's not only announcements, but it's also the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence, right, and all of that. So I think that if, it's certainly something that we can look at. The primary thing with the homeroom, the students still go to their first period class. It's still their first period class. There's no passing time there. It's just a matter of taking attendance for those students that are there, and if those students miss the homeroom period, then we're changing. It creates a block where we can call that their daily attendance. So it allows the teacher to take the attendance once, and then they don't have to worry about marking the students tardy or anything like that. It makes it easier for the teachers. It makes it easier to track from the front office. And then when we're looking at students' loss of credit or anything like that, it's very easy to do that rather than trying to distinguish between a student being classroom absent as opposed to school absent. So yeah, I mean, the announcements piece, we could certainly look at that, but that hasn't actually been the practice since I've been there.
Okay, because I left in 2018, so that's what our practice was practiced then. That was the reasoning behind it.
Okay. Well, we certainly could look at that, like doing the pledge in the morning and doing the pledge and the moment of silence, having the teachers take their attendance, and then do the announcements at the CTL. We certainly could look at that.
Just a thought. I don't want kids not to hear what's going on.
Sure, absolutely.
Ken, I have a couple of questions, if I may. So, are we not going to working on NEAS really soon, and does this impact? Because my understanding, Rita, is that this was sort of sent from. The early release on Tuesdays was done because of us going towards NEAS, and does this impact negatively the committee's chance of getting the committee work done? My first question, if that made any sense.
Yeah, well, there's first off, from a NEAS point of view, we're actually increasing the amount of time that students would be able to, or that teachers will be able to collaborate. So from a NEAS point of view, I think this actually helps us. You know, certainly it's something where I didn't want to eliminate teacher collaboration, I want to increase it. And I feel that if we could, while they're meeting for a shorter period of time for one individual meeting, they're meeting more times per week. So from a you know, a 1 week standpoint, they actually meet a little bit more. And I think that the second piece is, you know, from the NEAS point of view, it's not so much the amount of time that they're looking for, it's what are you doing during that time. And so I think that, you know, trying to, you know, look at what exactly, how we're using that time within our departments is going to be important. I also saw Addie had a question about the social distancing guidelines. I think that, you know, whatever bell schedule we have, Addie, I think we're going to have to look at, you know, if we have 3 lunchways or 4, if we have to increase the number of lunchways based on that, we'll have to do that. You know, I think it goes back to what Dr. Grenier said about being flexible. You know, we'll be flexible and figure it out. If we're only having a third of the number of kids in the school at a time, then with 3 lunchways, you know, we're not going to have that many kids in each lunchway anyway. But it's also, one of the things we also looked at was increasing the amount of time between lunchways so that we could do a thorough cleaning of the cafeteria, which we did. So we have now 7 minutes in between the 2 lunchways so that we can make sure we're cleaning the cafeteria. In addition to that, because we have more kids per lunchway, we actually increased the lunchway time. So now there's a half, it's not much, it's only by 2 minutes. But if you think about just a little bit more time to get through the line, so now the kids have a little bit more time to eat.
So, my question I think has 2 parts, maybe it doesn't.
Oh.
How has this been received by your staff, Ted? And then the second would, I'm just trying to throw my negotiations hat on, and does this impact any contract or any teacher time?
Well, I don't know if I could answer completely as much as I could with the athletic eligibility. I didn't survey the staff and ask them to agree or disagree. We did send obviously, I would have preferred to have met with my staff during a faculty meeting and told them all about the schedule and said, you know, this is exactly what we're doing. I had some individual conversations with some teachers, but unfortunately I had to put it out to the staff through an email and say, you know, this is kind of what we're thinking. I didn't get a whole lot of feedback on it, but right from the beginning, you know, I'll turn it over to Doug and Beth regarding the union issues, but right from the beginning, Doug and I had some conversations regarding this schedule, and you know, the actual the structure of the schedule hasn't changed. We're still teaching 4 blocks a day. The blocks are actually a little shorter than they are now. But what we're eliminating is the really short blocks that you get on the early release Tuesdays.
Thank you, Ted. Doug, do you want to speak to that at all?
Oh, thank you for recognizing me. Yeah, me and Ted have had conversations. He had ran the schedule by me, and yeah, nobody's ever going to agree 100% on a schedule. You're always going to have somebody who maybe like the early dismissal or not. But I've talked to teachers about it, and I don't see a problem with the staff with this new schedule. It is consistent, and I think it is better for attendance purposes. And I think there's quite a few teachers who would like the collaboration time during the day, and be able to have that contact time with their students. So I don't foresee an issue, but of course, not everybody, there's always going to be people who might not like it, but I didn't have any problems with it when Ted ran it by.
Once again, I'm not saying that you have to have staff approval. I just wanted to know what the conversations were. So Doug, I really appreciate that. And
yeah, the college, he talked to me. We talked about it. We went through it, and yeah, we were good with it.
Okay.
Can I just add this, Kim? It actually has a lot of parallels to the middle school schedule, in that we do have that collaborative time built in skinnies, in smaller sections. And we also have the teachers and the interventionists working with kids through SRBI. So it really builds in the SRBI periods, and it builds in that whole intervention piece, which is so essential. We're going to be working, as I've told you a few times, this summer on a K-12 SRBI. What are the key components as a district-wide program that we're offering. So I'm looking forward to doing that work, with all the different levels, with elementary, middle school, and high school. But you'll see a lot of parallels and connectivity with the middle school schedule and the high school schedule, the way Ted has designed it.
So I'm going to go to Zay, and then I'm going to yield my time to Beth, but I'm going to go Zay.
Yeah, Mr. Keller, I just have a quick question about the potential new schedule. Are you still planning to keep rotation in with it?
Yeah, Zay, that's a really good question. Zay was breaking up there a little bit, so just to ask, he's talking about the rotation. So basically, first quarter, our schedule goes period 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in second quarter, we go periods 2, 3, 4, 1. And so every quarter, we start with whatever period the quarter is. So third quarter would be 3, 4, 1, 2. And so there's, first of all, the easy question is that, or the easy answer to the question is that, yes, we're going to continue with the rotation. We haven't made the plan to change that. But one of the things I want to be clear about is we're going to continue with the rotation as long as it works. And I think that there's two concerns that I have immediately. The first is, we're going to have a lot more of a partnership with the middle school now than we have in the past. Obviously because of the proximity, but in terms of shared staff, in terms of bless you, in terms of using resources and so on and so forth. And if the rotation doesn't allow us to do that, then we won't be able to do the rotation. If it hinders that. In addition to that, we're also working with our people at Power School to make sure that we can align our homeroom periods with our first period classes. Because what we want to try to avoid is, the homeroom period has to have the same exact roster as your first period class. And it's going to make it a little bit more difficult because the first period class can rotate. So I think that we're just making sure that works. But it's a lot of like what Doug was just saying. The rotation, you know, I've talked to a lot of students and I've talked to a lot of faculty about the rotation, and it's like 50-50. Some people love it and some people hate it. So it's something where obviously we're changing the bell schedule. You know, I don't want to change too much. So if we can keep the rotation, we will. But if it's not going to be possible, then it's not going to be possible. Also, was it Beth that had a question next? I'm sorry.
I did, Ted. I just wanted to make sure that the collaboration time is separate from the plan time. That would be the only contractual impact that I could possibly think of with the...
Yeah. So basically a teacher's schedule within the 4 periods that we have during the day, the teacher would still be scheduled for 3 classes and 1 planning period. And that would be a full planning period, the 75-minute planning period.
I see Addie have a question.
Yeah, I just want to add something really quickly to the rotation. Just something to keep in mind, and this might be moot because of, you know, social distancing things that are happening right now. But I know a few students sometimes will take classes during the school day at Conn College or other local colleges if they can't find the class at Fitch, or I know some people who've taken advanced math classes at Conn College, and you can't do that rotation. So that's just one more thing that is interesting to take into account, I think.
Yeah, I have heard that there was some students that were taking classes off campus that became very difficult for them because, you know, they needed to have 4th period off in order to make it out to their classes. One of the other things that we're looking at is some of the programs that we're going to be bringing into the school, and students having opportunities outside of school. Is that going to become difficult using that rotation? So, you know, it's something where, you know, I don't really have that strong opinion on it one way or another, but if it becomes a hindrance, then we're going to have to get rid of it. So I think it's something that, you know, at this point, I don't have it that it's becoming that much of a hindrance, so we're going to keep it for now. And then if it's something that we find, you know, is going to be difficult in terms of our partnership with the middle school or other opportunities for students, then we won't be able to do it.
Rita, you are muted.
Sorry. I had a question, 2 questions. First is Susan. So the middle school is not rotating their schedules?
They actually have the same design plan that Ted was speaking of, that it would rotate on the quarter. So you would start 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it would, you know, move over to 2, 3, 4, 1. So exactly the same way.
But
and their homeroom will be built into the 1st period.
But if a student, let's say, was in 8th grade and was going to take an advanced math class at the high school, let's say 1st period, would they still be able to do that if the schedule like rotated like that?
It depends on if we can bring them into school at the same time. It doesn't sound like we're going to be able to do that. So if you have the high school coming at their normal 7:15 time and the middle school coming at 8, it may not jive exactly the same way.
Well, what East Lyme does with their middle school is that they actually have those students start early and go to the high school schedule. So they do that 1st period class at East Lyme High School, then they go to their middle school for the rest of the classes. So that's a possibility. It doesn't have to be in their same, you know, same framework, but they get to go and take that advanced class. And I do remember both my children, you know, my daughter left to go to take classes at Conn College because they were able to do that last period, and my son also would go down and he would tutor in the elementary school because he was interested in teaching. So I think that there are a lot of opportunities if you don't rotate the classes, or not all the time, because I think there are many opportunities at Pfizer, General Dynamics, that students could do, or some students would even go to work. So that's just my
Thank you, Rita. Any
2
other
cents.
questions about that? If not, we're going to move on to graduation planning.
Well, I know that, you know, I'd just like to say a few things regarding this, and I know Mike, and maybe Susan will have a couple comments as well. But the, you know, right from the get-go, I think that we all agreed that whatever we can do for the class of 2020, we want to do. You know, they certainly deserve a lot and have certainly endured a lot. You know, I think that you know, we wanted to see, you know, what we could provide for them. And it really started with the graduation ceremony, you know, and doing whatever we could and whatever rules that we were abiding by to give them as much as we could. So we are planning a graduation ceremony on June 19th, and it's going to be a drive-in movie theater type event.
Great.
We have we are in the process of securing the lot that we will be using for the graduation ceremony. We've secured the screen, and it's an FM receiver. I don't know exactly what it's called, but it basically will project the FM over the FM radio station. It would just be like pulling into a drive-in movie theater. You know, we certainly are going to be looking at, you know, what exactly the rules are going to be regarding the spacing of the cars, you know, at this point it doesn't really sound like that you're going to be able to leave your car, you know, unless you know we have some restrooms available. But and what we're going to need in terms of support from our staff, support from I should say our security staff. People that are willing to help out, you know, the police departments in terms of traffic and so on. But we have a very large group of people that we have as a graduation committee that are meeting once a week, and they are all committed to really trying to have a great graduation for the kids. We got the clearance to put out an announcement to all seniors saying that this was the plan, and that more details would be to follow. You know, and then we have a surprise coming for our senior class on May 22nd that, well, I'm going to keep that as a surprise. So, but it's I think it's going to be really nice for the kids. So, you know, I think, you know, we're looking at a lot of different things in terms of gifts for the class and for the kids, and you know, and then we've also had some discussions about, you know, when all of this does lift, you know, what can we do to give them an opportunity to come together as a class? You know, even as simple as, you know, if let's say we had some miracle and it lifted during the summer, planning like a senior cookout or something like that, where, you know, we just allow them to come together as a group and celebrate together. So it's the ideas like that, and you know, we've had a lot of people from the community reaching out with ideas as well, and we really appreciated that. And I think that you know, we just have a really dedicated group of people that just want to make sure we're doing whatever we can for this class.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the graduation team.
Kim, just one other thing. We actually ran this plan through Steve Mansfield, the director of Ledge Light, and because there was a little bit of a question, I actually contacted the commissioner and got his approval personally.
So what about the fire marshal? Does he have to approve?
Well, I'll ask Sam to reach out to him. We're planning it in a parking lot that accommodates 850 cars, and there'll be less than 250 cars there. So and we're gonna have to make sure we have the access and egress and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're good.
Could you share the site with us?
Yeah, it's EB Parking Lot M, right across the street from the Catherine Kolnowski driveway.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge.
Yeah.
So,
Liz,
I'm sorry, is it just going to be for the students, or are there going to be guests allowed to come in, their parents and stuff?
What, one car per family.
One car per family.
Yep. Well, the idea is this. the Ledge Light folks said, as long as nobody gets out of their car and there's 9 or so feet in between cars, then I think we're going to be able to do the social distancing, keep it safe, have a really nice video presentation of this huge screen, and I think we're all set. We're going to be good.
I'm envisioning clown cars where like 25 people are stuck.
It's probably going to be true.
No limos.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's right.
Can we come?
Yeah, we're going to be working out exactly how, who's going to be allowed to be coming in and so on. I think that it's, we're just going to have to make sure that absolutely the board is going to be invited, but we want to make sure that we limit the number of people in there so we can make sure we have the appropriate distance between cars and that we have, the bathroom facilities that are going to be needed and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a little bit of a production, but we have a lot of people on it that are really dedicated to it. So we'll get more information to you as soon as we have it.
Lee?
Sounds awesome.
Lee? Lee, you're
muted.
You. Unmute yourself.
Whoever's running the meeting could probably unmute her.
Yeah, could you unmute her?
There you go, Lee.
It doesn't matter. I can find out later on. It's okay.
But you're now unmuted.
Go ahead. We can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Now I can't remember what I was going to say. As my mother would say, it's not important.
My mother said that too.
I am going to move us along, if that's all right. And so what's the update on the grading?
I think that, we're in a pretty good place in terms of grading for our students, given this whole distance learning. We've had a lot of conversations with our teachers, starting with, any work that's accepted by the teacher is graded with a grade no lower than a 65. But we've really gone to a process where our teachers are identifying students that are struggling or are struggling to do or are struggling with the distance learning, and we're offering supports through our counseling department for those particular students, and really tracking those students that maybe had been doing very well during the school year, and then as soon as the distance learning was in place, we're seeing a real drop in their grade, and making sure that we are offering supports. The next piece is that we're going to be using the incomplete grades and offering supports for students that need it once this all ends for the school year, so that if we have a student that needs supports going into the next class or needs to finish up a class, that we'll be able to do that. One of the things that came out from the CIAC, and this is a one-time thing, is normally a student that has an incomplete grade at the end of the year would be considered a failing grade for the beginning of next year for their eligibility. Next year, for the first quarter, any incomplete grade is considered a passing grade for the student. So if we need to use those incompletes, it won't affect kids negatively going into next year, and we can give them time to do the work that they need to do and catch up with that.
I think, will the incomplete give you information about having the student go through an APEX program?
We could determine what's going to be best for that particular student.
Okay.
We're really trying to look at this individually per kid.
Okay.
I think that, and to be honest with you, Sue, I took that from you. I think it's something that we're trying to make sure, okay, what's going to be the best plan for this individual student.
Okay.
One of the things that, we identified pretty early is that the student's been struggling with the distance learning piece. Getting them on a program like APEX might not be the best solution, because that's almost distance learning as well. So it's something what do we need to do in order for this student to have more in-person help? And that's some of the conversations I've been having with Mike and Susan about do we need to look at an extended school day? Do we need to look at, more intervention during the school day? And so on and so forth. What are the supports that need to be in place for that particular student?
Great.
But the teachers have been absolutely fantastic in identifying students throughout. I should say that they have a form, and I know it's taken them a lot of time to do that, and to contact students and then fill out the form to say I'm not able to get this kid on the right track. But I think they've seen how important that is, and have really followed through on that. So I couldn't be happier with the teachers and the input that they're giving us.
Great, thank you, Ted. Any other questions about that? I've got Gretchen and then Mita. Okay.
Okay. With the students who are struggling with the distance learning, for some of them, is it a matter of they are not good at modifying their, like, okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z without the teacher standing there saying get X, Y, and Z done? Are they struggling with that?
Yeah, I don't want to say it's one particular thing because,
No.
And again, I go back to the kind of individual, it's different for every kid. We have some kids that it's as simple as they have connectivity issues at the home. And yeah, I think that Gretchen, I think that's absolutely part of it. I think that we have some students that they need to have somebody over their shoulder. And so, that's when we use some of the paras supports that we have, and trying to use that. So it's really about the counselor contacting that family, finding out what the concern is, and then we're saying, okay, what's the plan for this particular kid so we can get them back on track. And I think that's been the most successful. And why it's, like I said before, it's so important for the teachers to identify those kids for us.
I've been very surprised. My son is home from university, and he's in the middle of finals this week.
Yep.
He says he's finding it so much easier to study at home than he is at university. He's like, this is so easy.
Yeah, but that's one of the things also we're seeing is that we're seeing some students that may have struggled in the past that are absolutely doing great with the distance learning. They love it. So I think it's something where, and again, we've modified it as we've gone along. And, we saw that we were having some, at the high school level, you have a student taking 4 courses during an A day, getting 4 different subject areas. It can become a lot, and we wanted to make sure. So we wanted to make sure that, and then also, the teachers in terms of their planning and so on. So we modified our schedule in order to use that feedback and make it a little bit more conducive for everybody. But there is a lot of independent work that's happening, and the kids need to adjust to that.
With 3 college kids in the house right now,
mm-hmm.
and trying to balance everybody needing the computer and dad's working at home and everybody, it can get very challenging, but we're being very supportive. And I just want to know how much some of these kids are getting enough support at home, because I'm finding for my kids and myself, who's also a student, that a lot of it is the family supporting and organizing.
So I'm going to move us on.
Thank you. My question was only, are you implementing the pass-fail, pass with distinction for the last semester?
No, we're not. And I took a lot of input into that in terms of what we wanted to do, and that included a lot of conversation with the principals in the area,
mm-hmm.
Which I'd say it's 50-50. What they decided to do. I just felt that, and I shouldn't say I just felt. I think that our team really felt that would just have too much effect in other areas. And was more, I think, for lack of a better word, there's more trouble than it was worth.
Yeah. I think it's great. So you'll have letter grades.
Yeah, we'll have the same grades that we normally have, but we put in, like I said, that we put in some supports, like we're grading a little bit differently. It's simple as that, with the 65 rule and so on. Our teachers, I've had conversations with many of our teachers, and it's just a matter of we're going to show leniency, and it's simple as that, and let's say we do have a student that fails for the year. Okay, what are we going to do for that particular student, especially those students which the distance learning had a lot to do with that? Is it, how are we going to work the credit recovery to help that student move forward, in the next for next year, because it's not necessarily that the student has to retake that course all over.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Ted. You had lots of great information, and once again, my compliments to you and your staff on all levels about what you guys have been able to do to hold our high school students. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, like I said, it's the teachers that are doing it day to day, so I've been very impressed.
Great. So I'm going to move us on. Dr. Grenier or Susan, it is the update on summer schools.
Well, just the short answer is the state education department has not yet issued its guidance. Although I think Susan and I talked today, we're both pretty convinced that this is probably going to be online learning for the summer. But we're awaiting both for the special ed students and for the regular ed students. But our summer school for sure will be, certainly at the high school and probably even for some middle school students, will be based on the APEC program. So we're ready to roll one way or the other. I'll let you know as soon as we find out about whether it's going to be in person or not. We're prepared both ways.
And what about, is that the same for the extended school year, Mike?
Yes, we're preparing both ways.
I do know that there's some programs that are saying that their summer camps are going to be opened up June 30th. Summer camps are in fact going to be opened up, and I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to explain what we're thinking about for an 8-week program for Treehouse. But I spoke to Jerry Locken over the last couple of days, and he's planning to run a camp Button at Butler School, and the regular camps at Mary Morrison and some other school. I have to look it up.
I think Northeast Academy.
Okay, so this is not on our agenda topic, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I just didn't know that there's a correlation.
We're in. We're going to run the camps and Treehouse and summer school.
Oh my goodness. All right.
And I'd like to see that APEX program expanded for middle school and high school, because we may have some of the same issues in middle school as far as course credit recovery. So.
Kim, what about our special education students? Their summer program?
That's what, it has not yet been decided. We're preparing for both online, continued online, or in person. Hopefully in person.
I hope so. I mean, if we can have the Treehouse, I would like to see that special, those students finally get some contact with their teachers.
Right, yep.
I just have to say, Rita, that many of them are medically fragile or behaviorally fragile, so that to expect them to wear masks or to be separated from their teacher, it might, and the germs that they could get in their, in different compromised situations, we just have to be very careful and take the lead from the health people.
Oh, of course, yes, for sure.
All right, I'm moving on to Alliance funding.
So I think I've been kind of keeping you abreast of looking at that Alliance grant and realizing that it really is a grant that covers from March of this year till the end of June. And some of the things we proposed in the grant, like professional development, unless it was virtual, some of the staffing needs we had to shift. And so what we did was we shifted those things that we could not use and got permission from the Alliance department to put it more towards supplies and technology. So we're working on a plan with that with Dennis, and I think Mike's going to be speaking more about that. So we've been given the authority to spend the money, but the check's not, I guess the check's in the mail.
Maybe.
Well, we've been a little slow to do anything. Just waiting for that. So, Mike, did you want to speak to the technology piece?
Yeah. Kim, the next item is the instructional technology. And what we're thinking, actually, if to talk to you tomorrow, Kim, and then Jay, we've got a kind of what we're calling a refresh re-entry plan to really make sure that when we start in the fall, if we have to go partial or full distance learning at any point, the foundation of our plan is going to be this one-to-one initiative that we have right now. So I'll give more details about that in the next meeting on Monday night, when we sort of have a COW focused on more finance and facilities type things. But we're making our way. I think we're in good shape. Right now, we're in good shape in terms of computers and hotspots and so forth, and we're just working hard to plan for the fall. And then
any other question about that? So outside of we have an agenda item. Ms. Joan, are you still here? Oh, there you are, Ms. Joan. Hi. We're going to have to go to policy about grading requirements for extracurricular for high school, for them to kind of take a look at that in their spare time. Any other future agenda topics?
Kim?
I got Rita, Liz?
We didn't go over online learning. Was that part of that, what Dr. Grenier just said? B?
We actually talked about the roadmap for reentry in the very beginning.
Oh, you're considering that the online learning. Oh, I thought you were going to be talking about.
It's ongoing. You know, we're hanging. No, not just that. We just meant the big picture that we're into distance learning and doing the best we can. The president of Yale today, he said something kind of interesting. He said when we had to shift online learning, he used the word primitive. We use like Zoom and he said there's so many more sophisticated like animation programs and so as Susan said, we're trying to go back to what Doug Manford said early on, which is we need to build a really strong distance learning program, especially for our kids who struggle with poverty and with disabilities. So the more we can do, the better we can become. And I think we're doing, I'd like to say, pretty well. But I think as a nation, as a state, we need to do better.
Well, and I think part of my summer curriculum work will be bringing teams of teachers together, looking at that compacted curriculum, see what has been accomplished, try to figure out as part of that reentry plan what we need to be doing for the fall. So bringing teachers together to look at that. I'm actually going to have a curriculum and instruction council meeting before the end of the year to look at what are some of the softwares that people have noticed, so we can kind of vet those to see, what are some of the opportunities that have come out of this? What are some of the lessons learned through distance learning that we would consider best practices? So I think to really take a deep dive into that, and then in the summertime, take the time with groups of teachers to virtually work on curriculum in the Google world and with Zoom. To really outline what needs to happen for the fall.
Susan, a quick question for you. Are you seeing a shift in mindset on the part of teachers?
Well, I've seen so much growth, it just blows my mind. And when we said start slow and grow, that's certainly what is happening. And when I talk to colleagues that learn, and I'm hearing some of the same things that are happening and the same obstacles, but I felt so validated just about the equity and access piece for all kids, just about our teachers' willingness to be involved in professional development, to learn new techniques on how to, better work with the kids in a distance kind of way. So, and I know Beth feels the same way and Mike feels the same way. We're all very proud, and Doug too, of the accomplishments. I know Khan Academy has always been a big name for the high school, Wakan now has an elementary and a middle school version. So I think we're going to take a serious look so we really can build this thing without trying to fly the plane and build it at the same time. Maybe we can go back down to the runway and really build this thing the way we want to build it so we're not flying at the same time.
I can see the difference in the way teachers feel. What was very scary at first now has just made a come full cycle. It's opportunity. And I can see with a neighbor how at certain times of the day she goes out and goes for a good run and comes back. She has her
have to find balance in all of this. Yeah. And I just wanted to say, I know it's not on the agenda, but our schools are finding different ways to reach out. You know, you saw the Fitch High School, response with the videotape that goes out. But tomorrow, Northeast Academy is going to be one of the first schools to do the reverse kind of car parade. So the teachers will be spaced apart in a very safe way and wearing their masks. And the students and their families are going to come around the bus loop.
Oh, cool.
To be greeted. And all of the elementary schools, I think, are planning something like that. So we feel like this is going to be the little extra cheerleading to get them to get through the year. It's going to be so wonderful for teachers to see the kids and the kids to see their teachers. And that's going to be 1 o'clock in case you're near NEA and you just want to wave at people. I'm hoping I can get over there.
That's
What day is that?
Liz, did you have a question?
I wanted to have something put on for the agenda because you were saying we were talking about for policy. The other thing I wanted to discuss is the curriculum coordinator position further. We had some concerns at the curriculum committee meeting about the need for the special ed curriculum coordinator, and I wanted to bring that discussion out again to discuss that farther. Am I right, Andrea? That's where we were?
Yes, you're correct. And I don't know where I got the idea, but I thought it was going to be on tonight's agenda. I thought we referred it for that, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, and we had already done the agenda, and I didn't add, so that was totally.
We can do it. We'll do it next week.
Yeah,
very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a future agenda topics. Since next week's going to be more finance meeting, could maybe Dr. Kinnear, can you report on the money that's earmarked for the food service that we're going to be receiving and when, and also the CARE Act, the funding for schools, how much we are receiving and where you feel that is going to be distributed?
We don't know the details yet, but as soon as I get them, I'll report them. And if we get them by Monday, we'll put it on the agenda though. Yeah.
I know Joe Courtney had a big newsletter on it today, and he does mention it in a few different places. So I thought, well, that's important for us to talk about a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other agenda topics?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hands opposed, abstain, motion is carried. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Kim?
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bye, everybody.
7:30.